All right, please be seated as soon as possible. We need to start. Okay. So I'm Jianren Huang, professor here and also associate chair for the department. It's my greatest honor to introduce today's speaker, Kevin Lau, who also got his bachelor degree and master's degree from this department. Kevin has been a very successful alumni for our department, especially after he joined AT&T Wireless in 98, and after that he joined T-Mobile from 2002. He has been climbing so fast. Right now he's the senior director for product and technology in T-Mobile. And he just recently also finished his emerging executive training. So which means, which also implies someday he will climb even higher, okay? So Kevin has been also he recently also received this T-Mobile's Peak and Tech Awards. So a lot of the honor from Kevin. So it's my greatest pleasure today to introduce him and also invite him back to give us some idea about what's going on in T-Mobile. It's a big company nearby our campus, so I hope everybody can enjoy listening to his talk and get some idea, especially some of you someday may be interested in joining T-Mobile. So let's give Kevin a big hand. Kevin?
Thank you so much, Professor Huang. It's great to be here. Hello, my name is Kevin Lau. I've spent many hours actually sitting exactly where you are in this room. I'm also a Husky, so today I want to talk to all of you about T-Mobile's digital transformation journey and also what we do and what we mean when we say we listen to our customers. So, like I mentioned, I'm a Husky. I did my bachelor's here in EE before computer science and EE merged. I studied wireless technologies, and as part of that, I eventually led down my wireless career. I came back from a master's degree under DSP, studied under Professor Wong, in fact, for many years. So it was a great honor for me to be back. In terms of my career, I started as a customer service representative. And actually, that's one of the first jobs you can get as you enter in a company. From there, one job led to the next. I started working at the IT help desk. I started learning about what it means to support technology. So what does it mean to support an Exchange server for email or a Cisco VPN switch? Eventually, I got my EE degree, and that gave me the opportunity to join T-Mobile as a junior radio engineer. How many people have heard of GSM? Not a few. If you were graduating in the same year I was, that was all the rage. The ability to take your phone anywhere and use GPRS, which is one of the first data technologies to allow you to have wireless internet. So you can do things like download a ringtone and use your black and white screen phones to check your horoscope on AOL.com. Back in the day, I remember being very proud to be able to test a modem at a blazing speed of 40 kilobits per second. And all of you probably have smartphones today, and so it's a different world. So from there, I started doing a lot of mobile development on smartphones. And so started with the Google G1, one of the very first, more broadly accepted smartphones and the first Android. And then eventually, following down the software development path, that's led me to lead a team today that develops software for our frontline representatives, meaning our folks that work in the care centers when you call, or my first job as a customer care representative. In our company, we call them account experts. So if you need help and you have T-Mobile and you call 611, those are the folks that help you, and my team get the pleasure of building the software and tools for them, as well as retail. So if you enter in one of our thousands of retail stores across America, the tools they use, the tablet they use to serve you, are some of the software that we get to build. From that perspective, my teams, a lot of us are here in Washington. There's a big side of my team that's in Atlanta, as well as global. So we run a 365, 24/7 operation because we never stop when our customers might need help. So my LinkedIn's on there if you want to connect. I'll flash that back up in the last slide. My Twitter's on there as well. So if you think about questions throughout the talk, feel free to reach out. Happy to connect with all of you. So I thought I'd start by talking a little bit about the company, T-Mobile, that I work for. I've been here close to 15 years. And in that time, I remember celebrating our 5 millionth customer, and then later our 10th million customers. Today, we have over 72 million customers. And so when you think about our responsibility for all of these people, as we are, in many cases, their ability to connect, their ability to finish their schoolwork because they need to have wireless connection, or frankly, just maybe text a friend, not to mention watching YouTube and all those kinds of things that we all do today. We have a nationwide LTE network. Very recently, we announced what our plans are for 5G for the remainder of this year. We're super excited about that. There's over 50,000 employees when we're spread all across America. We have employees that do radio tuning up on the tower. We have employees that serve in the front line. And then we have folks that also do software engineering. So many of us working in a very large machine to deliver services. And one thing that's really important for us is diversity and inclusion. And you'll see some of that laced in. We believe in everybody having a voice and really truly being able to provide for their teams. And as a result, I think we have pretty good business results because we have a diversity of view. So as we go through the presentation, you'll see some of those themes. I can't not do a network slide coming from T-Mobile. We like to use this map a lot. We have over coverage for 311 million subscribers today in America, and then we're doing similar things with 5G. Most recently, we've launched a lot of 600 megahertz spectrum, meaning and it's one of the lowest frequencies we have. And because of propagation, and some of you are electrical engineers, you know that lower frequency means we can propagate further. So this further broadens our network and its reach. Now, the network's interesting, but maybe more interesting are things that you actually interact with. So what might you buy from us as a customer? We predominantly have our website, which serves our postpaid and prepaid wireless customers. That is our core business. That's a big part of where our 70 million subscribers come from. So here we've got the iPhone 11. Some of you may know this. We also operate the Metro by T-Mobile brand. That's a company that we acquired about 6 years ago out of Texas. And they also serve our wireless service as well. And we do two different brands, so we go after two different customer segments. Both of the brands try to really make things simple. So we'll get back to listening to our customers in a little bit in the presentation. But we try to keep things simple. So if you have a bill with us, we do things like we're tax inclusive. And specifically, that means your bill is exactly the same every month you get that bill. There's no surprises. And if you do auto pay, we're virtually, you don't even have to connect with us if you don't want to. Your service will just keep working. But over the last years, we've also branched out our services. Some of the things we're in test now are T-Mobile Internet at Home, meaning you don't really need a DSL or a cable modem anymore because we can just provide you wireless high-speed service for all of the devices in your home. That's in trial currently. We've done a lot more with our Sync Up program, which is our IoT program, so the Internet of Things. You can plug in an adapter into your car, and you can see exactly where your car is at any time you want to. For business use cases, you may have a fleet of trucks, and you might want to know where all your cargo is in terms of logistics. So we offer those services as well. We also got into the TV business with our TVision brand. We acquired a company recently, and that'll allow us to deliver content right over our network, which seems like a natural thing to do. The last one is the banking industry. I actually, for a moment, forgot that we also offer banking. So we have a very digital mode. What we find is a lot of people and customers in America, they just don't go to banks anymore. I don't know, when was the last time you went to a bank? Yeah, exactly. So it's a digital product. You're able to do most of your transactions and banking right from your phone. So these are some of the things we offer. And this will provide some context into our talk as we talk about our digital transformation journey. So what is digital transformation? Does anybody have a good definition? I expected that because I Googled it. There's about 300 definitions. So let me narrow this down a little bit today for our talk so I can provide some perspective. Some time ago, we basically had these types of phones. And I suspect nobody here has held one of these phones. I've had one. It's super heavy. And you may have talk time of maybe like an hour. and that was probably costing you a couple $100 a month. Not only that, but we also don't have nationwide networks back then, so you can use it where we have network. But today, most of you have devices that look a lot more like the smartphone on my left. So that is absolutely a transformation, taking technologies from voice only and those types of use cases to using Facebook, using LinkedIn, watching videos on YouTube, and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the digital transformation I want to talk to you about today. Specifically, I want to talk more about how we use technology, how we build our culture and our people, as well as the processes by which we work to provide greater value for the customer. So for T-Mobile, that's what digital transformation means. Up above on the screenshot, for those of you that are T-Mobile customers, what we learned when we listened to our customer was that much like you don't want to go to your bank to transact with banking transactions, you also don't necessarily want to come to a retail store. And even though there's multiple thousands of stores and a lot of them quite close to you, you'd rather just interact wherever you are. So if you're at home and you need help with your phone and it's not working, sometimes you just want to text, and that's okay. So we use our technology such that you can text us directly. If you want to message us from our application, that's also okay. When we formed our company around what our customers want and what their pain points are. So specifically, that's what we'll talk about today in our digital journey. But I thought it would be important to talk a little bit about how traditional companies are set up first, so we can understand some of that motivation for change. A lot of companies, even today, their organization look a lot more like this. Specifically, they're ordered and organized by silos of knowledge or skill. You may have a sales group, and all of these people are really good at selling things. They're really good with helping customers leave with new products and services and sign up for more services. They're really after the profit and loss of the company, so that's part of the growth engine. But they don't necessarily work with the marketing folks so directly. You have a set of marketing professionals that are very good at tuning the brand image. What does our brand stand for? What should our commercial look like on TV? What's the imagery that people should think about when they think about our brand? But they also work in their own group. And historically, what you'll find sometimes when you go into a corporate environment is that these folks actually sit on the same floor by themselves, meaning it's unnatural for these groups to collaborate. Further, you may have an engineering group. In our case, we may be going after building the best network and making sure we have the highest reliability and throughput. And that's great, and those groups are doing design work. They may be doing link budgets for a radio link to ensure interference are handled, and that we place cells in a good way so that they don't interfere, but we have a deep network coverage. But once they're done, they hand it off to the operations group. This is another set of folks. And oftentimes, the operations groups are the folks you find in the dark dungeons of buildings in the basement, where who knows how long they've been there, but they're there 24/7 because they want to make sure everything is working. They don't interact a lot with engineering, but once the product's made, they own it. So oftentimes, it's very hard to understand design trade-offs that were made. And then you get to the far end with customer service, and your main job is to help customers with their problems. But you also don't really know why we designed the network the way we did or why we chose to use this type of technology in this area versus another. And you definitely aren't necessarily tight with marketing. So when customers are calling because of a commercial and an offer we gave, well, it may not necessarily be clear for the care rep. So these are very siloed ways to organize companies. Information flows quite poorly across them. And as a result, it's very hard to move and be agile as a company, because the end-to-end view is actually very hard to see. So we talked about people. I want to next move and talk about process and the way we work. Okay, so this slide is very busy with words, and it's intentionally that way. What you see on the side is a picture of a waterfall. Has anybody heard of the waterfall process? One person, awesome. So there is a time and place for it, and let me walk you through what that means. As an example, I'll walk you through, say, a product concept, and then towards the end of the talk, I hope you find that this may not be the best way to work today. So let's start at the top. The business team comes up with an idea. there's a need. There's a need for the ability to have high-speed internet so you can watch YouTube on your phone. Maybe that's the business idea. And they research the market. They go, how big is this market? What are the demographics? What are the characteristics of customers that want this product? How do they use this product? How would they want to use this product? How much are they willing to pay? All of this research has to be done. And once that's done, they generally will write up a concept document, which as you enter into the business world, you may hear this being called a brief or a briefing. A lot of times this is just a one-pager, sometimes maybe 3 pages, describes the idea, describes the market size, describes the reason why we should pursue it as a company, why it fits with our brand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But to do anything, you need money. So at this point, you have to go ask the senior leadership group, which could be your CFO, could be your CIO, it frankly could be your CEO, and I'll talk a little bit about a program where we work very intimately with our CEO. And you have to convince them. It's a little like Shark Tank. You've probably seen Shark Tank on TV. Why is your idea better? Why would I want to invest money in this idea versus another? Then the fun begins. And by fun, I mean not fun. This is generally when we grab people from every organization. You saw the silos earlier. It's very hard for anybody to have a good view end to end. So the only way to work effectively is to invite everyone to a meeting. And sometimes it's a little bit like this, because I've seen some of these meetings with 150 people. And you know, you've been in classes, you're in a class now. Imagine being in this class for 8 hours a day, sometimes 10, for months. Because that happens. And it's terrible because one, you're fatigued, you no longer want to be in this room. In order for one person to have a good answer to a very simple question, you might have to talk to 15 people in the room to figure that out. So we do, and we go and go and go, and months and months and months go by. And then we have a set of requirements. From there, we take it to all the other groups. Engineering, IT, operations. These are the requirements by which we have to have the system work. Well, those requirements sometimes are written from a business sense. So a customer needs to be able to connect to YouTube, let's say. But from an engineer perspective, that may mean very different things. It may mean things like I have to have a very low latency network connection. It may mean that my network has to have a capacity to support 50,000 people within 50 square miles, et cetera, et cetera. So there's technical specifications that need to be written, and so on and so forth. Now we get to buy things. So we ask for money. Now we're going to need servers. From a scale perspective, we talked about serving 70 million subscribers. And that means we have lots and lots and lots of servers. Thousands and thousands and thousands. So think about if you have a Mac, or even if you have a Windows machine and you take a Windows update. So it's sort of tough to do on your one machine, but now imagine the scale. We have thousands and thousands and tens of thousands. So we start buying these machines, but it's not like you can go on Amazon Prime. You're not buying a laptop overnight. It's not going to get shipped to you. You don't go to the Apple store to pick it up. We literally ship these things by truckloads. So you have logistics to worry about. Will they ship on time? Is the shipping dock big enough to hold it before the rain comes for those that live in this area? Once we do get those, we can unpack them. We start racking them if you've seen computer racks in data centers. Network cabling. There are literally staff that goes and cables every connection and then takes out a little machine to label it and then goes into another piece of software to write down what this cable is for. Firewalls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the development teams get to start building some code. All the while, test teams wait because they have nothing to test. We're just developing the software now. Then eventually, the operation team says, hey, we're ready. You can throw your software onto these massive racks of computers. We do that. We integrate for the first time. And generally speaking, things don't work on the first time because despite your best efforts, things change over time. And your interfaces, your APIs don't match. You realize that your design has some flaws in it as well. And so on and so forth. You get the test team in. The main goal for the test team is to find bugs. And it isn't necessarily the most critical bugs. The goal for the test team is to find bugs. The person with the highest number of bugs wins. And that's not necessarily helpful for the business, but that's how this structure tends to work. By the way, developers are always late. And I lead one of the largest development groups. I can say for sure, we're almost always late. And the people that take in that time slack, towards the tail end is testing. They just have less time now. Testing might say to you, I told you I needed a month to test this. And the development might go, yeah, I know, but you have 3 days. Can't you just do something in 3 days? Eventually, we go to market, and I tell this whole story, and it's taken a long time, in fact, almost 5 minutes to tell the story, because this process sometimes takes over a year. So imagine having an idea to work on a project here or at home, or maybe you have entrepreneurial spirits and you want to start a company. Imagine taking 1 year just to do that idea and then trying to deploy it nationwide across all different demographics and customer needs and hoping for the best. Mind you, you never field tested this either. The moment you went to national is the first time this product was in production. So very risky proposition. We absolutely used to work in this way. I think there's a lot of companies that still do, but I'm hopeful that as I walk you through this, you'll understand the motivation for the need of a transformational change. So last piece, tech. What you'll see is that people, tech, and technology very often overlap. So it's almost impossible to talk about any one of these areas without it overlapping to some extent. On the very top, you see rack and stack hardware. We talked a little bit about that. It takes a lot of time to rack hardware. One thing I didn't cover before is manual testing or manual quality assurance, meaning you literally have a test engineer sit down and run through all the use cases, all of them, all the things, exhaustive. But is it possible? Because you may have a postpaid customer in Atlanta, a prepaid in Colorado, person has an iPhone, this person has an Android, this person actually is on this particular rate plan and that person's not. It's impossible. The permutations are not feasible to exhaustively test anything. And when you try and do that through brute force, what ends up happening is you try to test the things that you think are most important, but you don't cover them all. So you end up finding a lot of issues in production, which means you constantly have to do what we call fixing forward, meaning you've already deployed the code. There's no way for you to undo that or back that up. So you just have to keep hammering at this thing. And that's very often where you see lots of folks in war rooms working 24-hour days, and you're literally having to swap engineers because eventually people have to sleep. But now your product's in production, so you can't really let your customer down. Lastly, we tend to introduce software in a very large monolithic way, meaning a lot of times our software is packaged into, we may have 1 million lines of code that build into 2 or 3 binaries. So what does that mean? That means that if you make a mistake within that binary, it's virtually impossible, number one, to troubleshoot because you have loads of changes within the same space in a binary file. It also means that you can't back it out because now all of your codes have been merged. How many folks do computer development or software development in the room? Okay, a few. Some of you may have learned the lesson I learned in C Call. I want to say it was 1999, and it was CSC 142. I'm learning how to write C programming, and I pretty much got the assignment done. I was almost there. And then I decided to make about 6 changes on my last iteration, and it's 2, 3 in the morning. And I hit compile to put it together as a binary file. Well, guess what happened? It didn't build. So when you're awake, you're tired, it's 3 in the morning, that's the day I learned the lesson of never, ever make too many changes before you compile and test. And this will be a theme as we talk about our transformation. So having said all that, these are our key motivations. When we work in a way where we're organized by silos, we don't really have a good view of what the customer needs are. When we use processes that are waterfall, it takes forever to get anything done. Not only that, it leaves very little room for error. So if you spend a year building a product and your heart's in it and you love it and you think it's the best idea, the customers in the field may or may not feel that way. A whole year's passed. Maybe somebody has already launched that faster than you as a startup, or maybe even your competitors as you get more and more competitive in the field. Something to realize, when I started in the wireless business after graduating here, and a little bit before, I guess, as well, the market was not saturated. Not everybody had a cell phone, if you can imagine that. And like I mentioned, even if you had a cell phone, it doesn't work everywhere. That's not the place we're at today. Most people have more than one wireless device. Some of you have watches that also connect to the internet. So the market's saturated, and if we don't change, we will be left behind. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about what we've done in, traditionally we've called ourselves IT. But if you notice in the corner, that's stamped with the product and technology logo. So why is that? What we realized early on was being an IT organization, we were extremely siloed, and we worked almost virtually exactly as the story I told you earlier. Everything was processed very slowly, and as an IT organization, you actually feel like a cost center. So what does a cost center mean? It means you spend money. When you think about people that earn money for the company and for our shareholders, it's generally salespeople. Salespeople, you can argue marketing people, because if they've got a really awesome commercial, we're bringing customers and door swings into the door. But when you're in IT, you're largely just costing money. You are the cost of business. It's not a great place to be, frankly, because if you're spending money, then there's only one reasonable thing for any executive to ask you to do. Ideas? No? It's to spend less money. Okay? You will get asked to do more and more with less and less. And we realized that as an organization, we could no longer work that way. So we formed an organization called Product and Technology. In this case, we brought all of our product management and product development folks, along with our IT, software developers, analysts, Scrum Masters, test engineers, operation engineers, security engineers, and we literally form one group. All of us report through our CIO, and we are under one roof. And we'll talk a little bit about why we did that, but if nothing else, one of the things that brought was our ability to work for engineers to work with marketers and vice versa. And now you're starting to have a blended understanding of why we may not want to build something with a certain technical architecture. An engineer might be able to make a better trade-off because they understand the use case that the customer is trying to do a lot better. So this is a change. We created this tombstone 1994 to 2018. And so it's a little sad, but I'm also excited about where we're going. So we started looking at the bigger picture, and you'll see exactly the same three things I've been talking about: people, process, and how we use our technology to enable better customer experiences. So with that, let me get in a little deeper. We took large teams, vertical teams, and we started putting them together. So in this case, it's product and technology, but we didn't stop there. When we worked on projects, we actually bring in our folks that do marketing analysis, folks that do UX design, the legal team, because as it turns out, we have to be very careful and clear with what we're selling to our customers. We're also regulated by different government entities as well, so we need to make sure we understand those policies. We need to bring on engineers, security engineers. And so we bring them all in one room, and we literally co-locate them. And this is quite a change for us because we are a distributed company by nature, and we really have to learn how to do that. One of my teams being in Atlanta, I can't fly there all the time. We try to fly as much as possible. So what types of technologies do we have to use to do video calling, conferences, et cetera? We start mixing the teams. The product team is expected to understand the technology. And if you're an engineer, you're expected to understand why you're building what you're building and what makes sense from a customer perspective. And by doing so, we can begin to share a way where we share the profit and the loss. Now that we've brought in a product team, IT isn't about cost anymore. It's about cost as an investment to earn money. And in that way, you're a lot more empowered and frankly, under the expectation of your leadership that you bring in money or you're improving customer experiences. IT no longer can be just spending money. And product no longer be coming up with ideas that don't actually earn better experiences. And so that's been a big major change for us. From a process perspective, we talked about waterfall. Frankly, that just had to stop. People no longer could stay in these rooms with 200 other your favorite friends. Maybe you started as favorite friends, but 3 months into the project, you hate each other. So we started breaking teams into much smaller teams, and they can iterate. We'll take an idea. We'll do a UX design, sometimes even a scratch paper. We'll have a developer build it into an iOS app. And by the end of that week, we'll take it out to the field. And honestly, sometimes we even walk the streets. We'll go out and grab random people on the street. Hey, here's the product. What do you think about it? And we get great feedback from our customers. And so what do? We take it back. We do the same thing again. We release every single week. In some cases, it's every 2 weeks. And in some cases, it's every day. And by doing that, we've really allowed us to be a lot more agile because we're constantly learning and not waiting for a year and hoping for the best. Automating all the things. This is really important. When you're scaling the company in a market that's largely saturated, spending and cost is really important to keep under control. So quality needs to be high, cost needs to be low. And the only way you can really do that is through automation. Automation of testing, automation of, frankly, processes, and having systems that actually have automated controls in them so that they can self-heal and self-repair. One of the downsides to leading a team, and frankly, I have a part of my team here so they can truly attest, is that when you're 24/7, you always have your phone with you, because at some point in 4 in the morning, that phone will ring because something's broken, and it's your responsibility to go fix it. So automation is huge, because if nothing else, it allows us to sleep a lot better, because the system can detect faults, self-heal, take themselves out of the rotation of the servers, and kind of maintain the system. And then when we get up, we see the alert, we can go fix it. Decision-making starts to be at where the data is. So before, in the old model, most decisions were made by executives, who then talk to other executives, who then talk to senior leaders, who then talk to managers, who then talk to employees. And they're very centrally governed. And the fact of the matter is, while there's great experience and great expertise at the senior level, in a company and the scale we are, it's not possible for the CEO to know everything about everything from 50,000 employees. So we started making the decisions at a much lower level in a product team. And since they're doing everything once a week from idea to production anyway, it's actually okay to experiment, because your cost isn't that high if you make a mistake for that learning that you've done in that week. We started focusing on outcomes. We're not counting bugs anymore. We're counting things like meaningful bugs. And there's a key difference there. In software, there's always bugs. There is no system that doesn't have bugs. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to fix them all, because some of them don't matter. And then finally, what that allowed the teams to do is take from monolithic projects that launch on June 1st, and then another one on September 1st, et cetera, and you're able to be much more flexible with much more autonomy. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about a technology stack as well. We talked about stacking servers earlier, and you can imagine how much that actually costs. Has anybody used AWS? Has anybody used Gmail? Wow, I'm surprised. I figure all of you use Gmail. Cloud, it was really a big unlock for us. By using public cloud, or in some cases private clouds, with partners such as Amazon, Azure, we also partner with Google and a company called Pivotal Cloud Foundry. What that allows us to do is to write our code and deploy to any scale we want. So instead of buying the thousands of servers for a low we expected from a year ago on projections, we can merely stand up an instance and then invite customers to try it, really truly understand the system. And if we need more load, it's really easy. You just basically write a script and you bring on more servers. Not only does that bring us the ability to control our costs, it also allows us to do things a lot more consistently. We're not going around cabling things anymore. We're not going around writing firewall rules. A lot of these things are just automated and handled by the platforms themselves. We also get a lot of value, because when you buy a server or when you buy a MacBook, you know what's going to happen in a year, maybe 2 years. There's going to be a better MacBook. And probably all of you have heard of Moore's Law. It's not so financially effective to go buy new machines every year. But when you're using the public cloud, that's somebody else's problem. That's an Amazon problem. It's a Microsoft problem. And when they can purchase at scale, it's a lot cheaper for them. So going to the cloud and having elastic compute has been key for us, and then driving all the things through continuous integration and continuous development pipelines. Things like Jenkins, things like GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket. We took a lot of our code that were centrally in repositories and distributed them out into some of these SaaS or software as a service models. And it's been great. It allows all of us to work a lot more quickly, not to mention it allows us to work from home as well, because you don't have to be there next to the machine under your desk that you've been building your software on. The other main key piece is that as we started to use cloud computing, it allowed us to do releases in a different way. Before we would stay up at night, 10 o'clock, it's pretty calm. East Coast is asleep, West Coast is almost asleep, and then we turn off systems And then when we do, we install software. Not so much like the old days of sticking in floppies, but I'm talking about hours of software updates. In the end of that, we turn it back on and hope for the best. With cloud compute, and because of that cost and financial model, we can purely stand up another stack with a new version. And then we don't even have to put all the customers on it. Maybe we put 1% on it, and then we can watch the telemetry. If it looks right, we swing some more traffic on it. If it doesn't, we swing it back. So these technologies have really enabled us to be a lot more agile. And so to illustrate that, I want to talk to you about two different use cases, or two different case studies that I've been a part of. First one being T-Mobile Tuesdays. And by the way, it is Tuesday. So if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, you should go to your app because you get free stuff every week. Why did we do that? This is a very interesting program, the way we started it. We had this idea with our senior executive leaders and the chief levels of the company. And we said, wouldn't it be great if our customers felt like they were rewarded? So how might we do that? What's value for them? And how might we remind them that, hey, we love having you as a customer as well? So the idea of T-Mobile Tuesdays came along, where we'll just give away free stuff. And that sounds kind of insane because people love free stuff. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened. Before I go to the next slide, because that sort of tells the story, we had anticipated a certain amount of volume of people, customers that want to come and get free stuff. We exceeded that volume by over a 6-month projection. So we had a certain target. We launched in June. We had a certain target by the end of the year, and we said to ourselves, wow, wouldn't it be great if we have X number of people that use this every Tuesday by December? We hit that number in 8 days. So let me tell you a little bit about what happened. This is actually a real chart of our telemetry. We expected volume, sure, but we didn't expect an impulse function to skyrocket like that. So some of you have seen, even Amazon's gone down a few times on Prime Day, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't expect that type of traffic. And so the way we worked this project was, or this program was, we found a very small team. In fact, there were less than 14 people, all the way from marketing to the people that did the business deal and business development with partners like Taco Bell, with partners like Starbucks. We also did free movie tickets. We partnered with Major League Baseball. So when you look at everyone that is an idea person, to a UX designer, to a software developer, to an operations engineer and security engineer, to biz dev, everybody was 14 people. And they sat together. We actually put them in a room. We literally moved them to another floor, which was very uncomfortable and weird because all of these people are used to sitting with their friends that do exactly what they do. But this time we said, no, you're going to sit with the people that work on the thing you're working on, and you guys are responsible collectively to make this successful. So recently we did Taco Tuesday, which is always fun. And because we used Elastic Cloud, we actually built this on Azure. We were able to sustain this load after some tuning of the initial projections were so off. And we just never could have done that with stacking and racking. We can wait 3 months to order servers from any of your major server providers, your HPs of the world, your Dells of the world. You're not going to get them. So when you've promised your customers something free every Tuesday, but you can't get new servers until 3 months from now, what do you do? So this is one major use case where technology has helped us with Elastic Cloud. All it took was a script to change it from 10 servers to 600, 1,000 if you want. It's virtually unlimited. So what about the results? What happened by working this way, changing our technology, and working an iterative model? So I already talked about a smaller group. What we realized was you no longer needed to email somebody you've never seen before. If you had a question as an engineer and you wanted to know, hey, what's the Major League Baseball deal going to be like for this Tuesday? You can just stand up and ask. These aren't things we typically have done. And because the developer got that answer right away, she might have been able to just code it the right way the first time instead of waiting for an email to come back. One of the interesting things about this program is that we launch every Tuesday. So if you're not sure, it doesn't matter. Tuesday will still come. You still have to be ready. We did tons more builds, smaller builds every day. We went from mobile app builds that may take us 2 months for one build to 4, 5, 6, 7 builds a day. And what that allowed us to do was, frankly, take it on the street and let customers try it. We had higher confidence in the builds because we had automated testing, something which historically we would have used a manual tester for. and would have taken 5, 6, 7, 8 days to actually regress a build. Cost savings have been huge. I mean, you can't imagine paying for all these servers when you used it 1 day out of 7. And then one thing we learned from a process perspective as well is, as prepared as you may be, your partners may not be. As it turns out, not everybody's services can handle that impulse function we saw earlier. So by developing our applications, using Docker containers, for those of you that may have heard of containers before, it's a way to package your software in a very self-contained way, which is really great for deployment. So imagine it like a unit of software, a unit of compute in a container. If we need 100, we honestly just type in 100, enter, and boom, in 5, 6, 7 seconds, you're scaled to 10 million subscribers. We use Azure, we talked about that. We also use a lot of open source software. So in this case, we used HA proxy from Apache. That allowed us basically to move traffic around as needed during the really high loads and to keep the system stable. So that's one of my use cases I want to share with you. It was really fun in that I learned a lot about what happens when you give free food, free movie tickets, everybody comes in. And by the way, that impulse function earlier, that was 2 a.m. Right? We didn't really think that people would wake up at 2 a.m. on the West Coast just to see what the deal was. So if you're not working in small teams, if you're not agile, you don't have the technology that allows you to be flexible, these are big problems for you if you're going to have to go rack, hire new people, test things manually. So the next use case I want to talk through is what we call team of experts. Most of you have probably called customer service at some point. If you call 611, you will get to our team of experts. These are our customer care representatives that help you. But what do we do different there? We started by listening to our customers. And that's a great place to be in the customer service center because customers are not afraid of telling you how they feel, what they think. They are very raw and they will tell you what's up over the phone. So by listening, we knew we had to make changes and we need to set some new rules. One of the rules is we wanted to make sure we make it easy. If our customers want to get a hold of us, we need to be there, whether in the store, in the care center, over the phone, over a text message. You can get to us over Twitter even, or Facebook. We will be there wherever you are. When we never want you to repeat yourself. So for those of you that have called into a utility company or maybe another service company that you work with, a lot of times you get in the IVR and they ask you 20 questions, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. And then once you get there, you finally get to a human being, you're like, thank God I'm finally talking to somebody, only to be transferred again because the thing you need help with is not something they can help you with. So we didn't want to do that anymore. We wanted to find a community of experts that will help you the right way the first time, every time. And we wanted this community to be your community. And I'll talk more about that in the next slide. And frankly, if you'd rather fix it yourself because you're super savvy, we'll give you the tools to do it. We'll give you applications on your phone, on the web, whatever you might need, and you can solve your own problems if you so choose. And we know that we've done a good job when our customers are happy, they stay with us longer. We've deepened the relationship. In other words, they actually care about T-Mobile, and they know that T-Mobile cares about our customers. And we can do all of this with less effort because we have 50,000 employees. There are over 10,000 employees that work in the care organization, over another 10,000 that work in retail. So these are your largest group of individuals in our company. So it's really important that they are efficient. If you go to the retail store and you want to activate a phone and we say, well, hold on, can you sit here for 5 hours while I help you activate? That's not okay. They have to be efficient because they scale. Any one thing a rep has to do that takes more time than it needs to is multiplied by 10,000 every single day. On some cases, we may get anywhere between 500,000 to 1.5 million calls a day, easy. When you have 70 million customers, it's not very hard to get that kind of call volume. So what do? We created a team of experts, or what you see in this slide as text. What we used to do is organize customer care in financial care as one group. They may be in one state. Handset troubleshooting may be in a different state. Network troubleshooting issues in a different state. Billing problems in a different state. They literally weren't even in the same state, which guaranteed that your likelihood of getting transferred is super high. We stopped doing that. We routed all the calls to your same community. If you live here in Washington and you call us today, there's a very strong likelihood that you will get to the same Bellingham team that's serving you in this state, people that live in your area, that understand what's going on. And you will get to that same person almost every time, unless they're on break. And then you'll get their teammate who sits right next to them. We literally built pods where all these folks sit together to serve our customers, and they never have to transfer, because each one of those teams have a tech person, have a billing person, have a network person. And so when you call, we just serve you right there. We don't leave you in the IVR. We get you right to your experts. If you use our app, you can even see their picture and their name, and those are real people. I know that because I've gone to Bellingham, and I found these people. They're actually real. So these are the same people that serve you every single time with white glove service. We also change how we paid our reps as well. So if you pay your reps by how quickly they can get the customer off the phone, you will get behaviors that align with getting people off the phone. We changed the way. We looked at, could you resolve the customer's problem on the first try? If you do, that's great for you. If they call back, you haven't done a good job. So we looked at different metrics and we changed that around. We also looked at making sure they have the best tools so that when you call, your account is up and running, and we can just help you right from the get-go and not transfer you to anyone. And then finally, it really is talking about owning the customer experience, which we started talking about at the beginning of the talk, listening to our customers, using our people, process, and technology to change the way we work so that we can deliver what the customer wants. So huge success for us in a team of experts. It's been fun to work on that program. Tons of technology changes, even from call routing, so that we know exactly who you are within a split second and get you to your community, as well as tying that with messaging. If you message, you're basically getting the same team of experts as well. So with that, what happens when that happens when you listen to your customer? You do well, and they actually think highly of you. We've won quite a few J.D. Powers Associates. They do surveys to sort of look at different industries and how well you perform. So it's been an honor to be able to help the care team as well as our sales team win a few of these. I think in some cases we've won 7 or 8 times. So it's great. And honestly, the very simple truth is, if you just listen to your customer and do what they want, this kind of accolades happen. So to recap, we talked about how we took the old way of working as motivation. We drove our IT organization into a product and technology organization. We've talked about digital transformation, what it means to us, what are the key aspects between people, process, and technology. We talked about T-Mobile Tuesdays, and frankly, I put even Taco Tuesdays, because if we're partnering with Taco Bell that week, it's Taco Tuesdays, as well as our team of experts. So with that, I want to thank Professor Wong, the UW, for hosting me, and then I'm open for any questions, and my contact info is on that board as well. Thank you. Questions? All right, great.
I was just curious how you made the transition from like the old way to what you guys are doing now across such a large company, while still like needing to address customers' needs 24/7.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the question was, how do we make the transition of working from the old way to the new way through our digital transformation journey over a broad team of 50,000? All the while maintaining the business, sometimes I like to talk about this as, how do you fix an engine on an airplane that's in the air? We talk about this all the time with my team. So a couple of key things. I think, one, culture is really important. You really have to have a diverse and inclusive culture to have the real conversations. Because when you change, it means you're not doing something else you used to do. And generally, humans like to do exactly what they typically do. It's very hard. Two, clear leaders all the way up to the CEO supporting efforts and changing the way we work. When we worked on T-Mobile Tuesdays, we actually had a weekly review with either our COO, our CMO, or our CEO every single week. So it starts at the top. And then finally, I think you really have to align and build a culture where people feel it's safe to change that and to be really targeted on goals. So we literally had to, in the case of Team of Experts, we had to change the metrics by which we look at people's performance. You're not going to do really well if all you're good at doing is hanging up on customers. You're going to do a lot better as we measure things like the customer callback. So those are some 3 aspects. And I think as an overlay, it's just time. It took a lot of time to get here. It wasn't something we started last night. It's been probably a decade in the making slowly. Great question. Thank you. Other questions?
With such an iterative design process, do you find that products or systems become more and more complicated over time and just become like sort of get out of hand, or is that something that you address early on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you start working iteratively, does that make your system design and systems just unattainable because you have so many versions going out? I really love that question because we can't say that the new way is always better than the old way. So for instance, one of the things we started learning was it's best to deploy things in a smaller group. So you guys are probably in some form of beta groups, right? Maybe you're a beta user for Gmail. Maybe you're a beta user for Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. And what we started to learn was that it's safer to deploy to a smaller group. But now you have 2 versions running in production. So when a customer calls, which version are they on exactly? And then you might actually run another field test. So now you're running 3 versions. So there is absolutely additional complexity. The savings we get are, if we do something and we make a mistake, it's really easy to switch back. But it does add a layer of management complexity that we're still working through. Automation can help some of that. Telemetry and observability helps a lot of that. But you're right, it becomes hard when you're serving customers all across the country in different time zones on different versions. It's a great question. I don't think we've solved it, but we keep working on that every day. Great question. Others?
Any more questions? No? That's really an intriguing talk. I hope everybody really learn what is going on in the real industry instead of purely just theoretical aspect of what we are studying here. So really appreciate it. Let's give a big hand to Kevin again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be here for a few minutes if you have questions as well. Thank you, Professor.